The Bitcoin Group, the American original. For over the last 10 years, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. This is a special update edition, and I'm Thomas Hunt from the World Crypto Network. The price of Bitcoin is equal in the last 24 hours, or even, with a last of 96,907, a high of 98,821, and a low of 96,424. That's $1 for 1,032 Satoshis, just over the 1,000 Satoshi barrier, a thing that we never used to go over. Issue 1, GameStop CEO Ryan Cohen fuels speculation that the retailer will invest its $4.6 billion cash pile in Bitcoin. He took a picture standing next to Michael Saylor, and now they're saying GameStop could become MicroStrategy GameStop. Thomas Hunt, what do you think about this? Well, we've talked about it before. GameStop's sitting there, all this money, nothing to do with it. Nobody ever goes in there. Nobody ever buys anything, with the exception of the movie that I love, Dumb Money, and the fun idea that a bunch of normal people made money on Wall Street for once, which I think is a complete, impossibility most of the time, and shocking when it really does happen. I'm not sure why we're still talking about GameStop. They had the opportunity to pivot to Bitcoin years ago. They could have put Bitcoin ATMs in their stores. They have a lot of other options, things they could do with Bitcoin. I guess if they invest their money in it, everyone's going to get on board, and they're the next Michael Saylor, geniuses at investing. The price of GameStop stock is up 23% in the last 6 months. Let's drill down. 1 month, it's down about 3% in the last month. In the last 5 days, however, it's up 5.5%. And that's mainly today, up 2.6% on the back of the Bitcoin announcement. Interesting stuff from GameStop. Let's check out what you guys think in the chat about GameStop. Schrodinger's Destiny says, GameStop loss. They won't have diamond hands like Saylor. My guess is they sell for a loss. It could be very similar to the Tesla situation, where Tesla bought Bitcoin, everyone got behind it, and then we found out very quickly that they sold, then they bought, then they sold. And generally, you still can't pay for a Tesla in Bitcoin, so it's not that great for anyone. What else about GameStop and their stock? I mean, I think it's a good idea, but I think it goes back to this idea we've talked about perhaps far too much on this show, where what is the point of a company? If I can tell you right now, as I've told you for the last 10 years plus, Bitcoin of your life, and that, it's losing my speakers now. This is exciting stuff. Bitcoin's the greatest asset of your life. Your speakers won't work. Let's try to unplug and replug. And that from now on, the best option, configuration, go on. Oh, but it's this one, is going to be for you to buy more Bitcoin. If we agree that that's true, then why wouldn't I just start a company where we just hold Bitcoin? Of course, we know that's already happened with MicroStrategy or Strategy B or whatever he wants to call it now. But the problem with this, again, is that they're not just holding Bitcoin, they're not just investing in it, they're continuously borrowing to get more money, to get more Bitcoin. And at a certain point, the theory is this will catch up to them. We're not sure if it will. It's up to you what you think. Are you going to go buy GameStop stock because they're into Bitcoin? Let us know in the chat. We're checking out the chat today. Let's see. Starship Schrodinger's Destiny says, if you have a stock that's trading way over its real value, then diluting it to buy a hard asset is probably the best thing you can do. Yes, for the company GameStop. Maybe for the stockholders. I don't know. For the people working there, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the point is of GameStop anymore. As hard as it is to say after the whole great, Roaring Kitty has a thesis and he's an investor and all these people made money and how much I enjoyed the movie, I still kind of buy most of my games online, or I have them shipped to me from Amazon like everything else. It just seems very hard to compete with. You'd have a choice now between GameStop or MicroStrategy B or whatever you'd want. So you would have that option now. Schrodinger's Destiny in the chat says, not going to buy GameStop. Pretty much agree with that. I tried to chase the Roaring Kitty not too long ago, and like many others, I got destroyed, totally wrecked by the Roaring Kitty. So I wouldn't bother with that GameStop AMC stuff. But if that's your bag, go for it. Moving on to issue 2. Michael Saylor, hey, that's the same guy we just talked about, says Bitcoin will be unaffordable, predicts $5 million per coin price. I'll say it again because it says it in the headline and in the text. Michael Saylor predicts Bitcoin will reach $5 million, citing 3 major catalysts: a spot Bitcoin ETF, bank custody with lending, and fair value accounting for Bitcoin on corporate balance sheets. There it is again. Our friends are our enemies. The banks are here to take Bitcoin to new heights, and you're going with them. Well, you don't really have any choice in the matter, but it looks like you're going with them. Going down the line, we do already have some spot Bitcoin ETFs. Bank custody with lending is pretty exciting stuff. I've seen a lot of people saying that this wild, wild west of putting some Bitcoin in an account and then having the money lent to you. And if you're lucky, the price of Bitcoin goes up and you can just buy back your Bitcoin. That could be done with a major bank partner. Much less likely that they'd run off with your Bitcoin or the money, where we've had too many problems with these kind of fly-by-night lending platforms. And I should know. Deep cut right there. As far as fair value accounting and Bitcoin on corporate balance sheets, this again goes back to the first topic we're talking about here. Why bother doing anything if holding Bitcoin is the best business move that you can make, the best investment move that you can make? And if it's completely obvious, right? Like, it's not just the best investment, it's slamming you in the face like a frying pan. It's like, buy Bitcoin, you moron. And it's at the point now where these companies are looking at Bitcoin over the last 10 years or whatever you want to say. And now these companies are like, oh, we should buy Bitcoin. And again, I do think this is a dangerous thing. This is the goose that laid the golden egg. And at a certain point, although certainly not in this administration, one would hope that the government would have to step in to restore this kind of reality. It's almost like Infinite Jest, where in the book Infinite Jest, he talks about this film that's so addictive that if you started watching it, you would stop doing all of your normal things like eating and drinking water and taking care of yourself and just watch the film. In the same way for these businesses, Bitcoin is their infinite jest. If they start taking it in, look at MicroStrategy, now Strategy B. They used to be into .coms and have other strategies and maybe have a bunch of guys thinking about stuff on the staff, you know, the strategy part. Now they're just B, right? They just buy Bitcoin and then they talk about it and they have seminars and they talk about it some more. And obviously this is good for their investment to talk about it and to also have these easy to use ETFs where the banks can hold Bitcoin without really holding Bitcoin. Again, we keep separating people from the actual thing, the actual experience, where that's not necessary. This disintermediation of these people, right? You can get right up with Bitcoin. You can touch it. You can use it. You can send it around. You can move it. You don't have to be a bank. You could do it even if you were a bank. But again, it's a lot easier for them to hold the ETFs. So they do that. And it's this idea where why even bother having a business? Why even bother doing anything else but watching Infinite Jest? All of these companies, especially when they start out with this percentage game, and we saw this with Tesla early on. Tesla was like, oh, we're going to hold 10% of our money in Bitcoin. And then they accidentally made more money off the hold of their Bitcoin than they make selling cars. And this really draws into the question, why even bother selling the cars? Why bother employing all those people, getting all the material, doing all that work when we could just hold the Bitcoin? In that way, it really is an infinite jest. It really is a monkey's paw. And it's also this kind of curse too, where you're always buying and selling at the wrong time. You're always telling people to buy and sell at the wrong time. Your family's always buying, selling at the wrong time. But at the long scale, these Bitcoin bets keep killing it. Right, on a long enough scale, which is what Blake used to say all the time, if you guys used to listen to Blake, on a long enough time scale, Bitcoin seems to go up. And that really does seem. Exactly. Schrodinger in the chat says, maybe I should quit my job and just borrow to buy Bitcoin instead. really, that's the thing. As well as, and I knew this a long time ago with content creation, I should have quit this. I should have quit all of my jobs, went to work at Subway or computer repair or wherever I could have gotten the most money and put the most money in early, because there really was this huge advantage to getting to Bitcoin early. And I'm not sure I really got there. And a lot of other people, I'm sure, that feel the same way. And you certainly buy and sell and lose a lot of your Bitcoin along the way, but not if you're Michael Saylor, not if you have millions of dollars. And now he's saying that the price would go to $5 million a coin, which would just be pretty ridiculous, and would go through another round of those. Oh, I spent this Bitcoin on beer. I spent this Bitcoin on a magnet that says Sacramento Kings, and many other people, I'm sure, who bought and sold at the wrong time. And again, and on a long enough scale, it seems like any sell is a bad sell. And we've said this before, and Meister's said this, and others have said it. But it's really strange to see this kind of internet nerd, libertarian, computer geek virus, whatever you want to say, jump over into the mainstream, into these finance guys, where now it's these finance guys who are running around saying, we've got to get more Bitcoin. We've got to get everything into Bitcoin. And they're even Mark Cuban's up to saying 10% of your portfolio, you might lose it all, like the way BlackRock and Michael Saylor are losing it all. But 10% of your portfolio, that's a good risk. Let's keep moving. Check out worldcryptonetwork.com, where we've got 4,136 videos you could watch for 3 months, 21 days, and 0 hours straight. That would be an incredible infinite jest, all about cryptocurrency and other historic things that could have happened. Check out World Crypto Network at worldcryptonetwork.com. Issue 3, man wants to buy tip where he lost Bitcoin fortune. Well, first of all, tip means dump. And here he is again, our favorite story, the man who threw away his Bitcoin. James Howells lost 8,000 Bitcoin in 2013. He claims that it was the ex-girlfriend who mistakenly threw out the wrong hard drive. He thinks that it went to this dump, and he's been petitioning the town council ever since, trying to get access to what now is an incredible fortune in Bitcoin, 8,000 Bitcoin. Where's the number? Could be $1 billion fortune at this point. I think we keep talking about it every time it gets bigger. He lost the Bitcoin in the dump. What do you guys think? We've talked about it. I think a couple of times ago, we had all pretty much agreed that the pressure of the dump on the hard drive platters would have pretty much smashed them at this point. Remember, hard drives, like a record player, has these things inside that are kind of like records. And similar to a record player, if you scratch it enough, you can't listen to the song. Even though this guy only needs a special little, 24 words or, whatever the number string is, he needs this magical key, right, to get to his coins. It could be in there. We also talked about the problem, which I think led the council to deny him time after time. There's a bit of a privacy expectation. If you're a normal person and you throw your hard drive away without erasing it, which most people erase or smash these days, but even so, you have an expectation of privacy. If you put that hard drive in the garbage dump, you don't expect that someone's going to sift through the whole garbage dump looking for hard drives and then find yours. And it's unlikely that they're going to do anything with their hard drives, but who knows? It does violate their privacy. But now we've entered into a new phase of this. And again, this story could go on forever. This could be similar to the goose, the gift that keeps on giving. Now he wants to buy the dump, right? He wants to buy the entire dump. So the council's gotten to the point where they're done with the dump. They're putting the dirt on top. They're like, good job, boys. We really buried that garbage. Let's go, dig up another hole, bury some more garbage. But now he wants to buy it. And I've said for a long time, there's this potential in this 8,000 Bitcoin. Now, it's a very strange thing, and I don't want to say that Mr. Howells would be involved in a scam or anything like that, but I do think based on this potential, you could form some kind of a company. People could invest, risky people who understand that they're investing in an all or nothing kind of a Bitcoin mine, kind of a copper mine, right? They're going to dig into the dump, try to find this thing, and if they find it, great. The company's worth lots of money, you're a big winner. If they don't find it or it's damaged, as we've said many times through many years of talking about this story, then you get nothing, right? It's a complete disaster for your investment, but it's straightforward. If you want to invest, the opportunity is there. I think you could do it. I think that we're in a continual situation where the more the price of Bitcoin goes up, which again, our assumption is it keeps going up, the more that this 8,000 Bitcoin locked in this dump becomes doable for somebody. And I don't know who it is, a Saudi prince or somebody else who has a lot of money, likes to roll on a gamble, who's going to back this here young man and try to dig up his Bitcoin. But I'm sure for a percentage of the Bitcoin, he could get himself an army. And it really reminds me of a Douglas Copeland novel where he talked about, it was called Shampoo Planet, and he talked about a fantastic idea for History Land, a great place where you could dig in real American history. And of course, he was talking about monetizing the dump. He was going to get Americans, and of course, to come to the dump and dig in the dump and try to find old Coke bottles and old desks and, artifacts from the past that were thrown out in the garbage dump. And along the way, he could get them to sort everything for recycling and all of that. So I think we're very close to history world right here as James Howells continues to search for his fortune. What do you guys think? Tell me in the chat. Do you think the hard drives are intact? Do you think there's a privacy issue? Or do you think that, like I do, that continuously this kind of bounty of 8,000 magical Bitcoins buried in the ground here will continuously drive things until we see this kind of business element, kind of a mad world of business digging into the dump to potentially get that Bitcoin. Let's check out the chat. Schrodinger's Destiny spent Bitcoin or 0.1 Bitcoin on a van. Could be the most expensive van ever. It is really hard to spend Bitcoin, but sometimes you do need useful things like a van or a new kitchen or renovations for your house, things like this. You gotta buy them. You gotta live a good life. You gotta spend some money sometimes. But yeah, this guy keeps going after it. He'll be even more of regret when the hard drive isn't there or is broken in the dump. Yeah, it is an incredible story. This guy really won't let it go. It used to be kind of just a joke where, we would talk about it, and every once in a while the BBC or another journalist would go out there and they'd interview him, and we would talk about it and all of that. But it does seem like with the price of Bitcoin going up more, and if it went up to Michael Saylor's $5 million, 5 million times 8,000, that's 40 something, lot of money. And, you could see this happening with this kind of company. Let's see, Gerbot says, this is what happens when you don't keep proper backups. Yes, if Hal had 2 copies of his coins, and I know many other people who used to have servers and all kinds of things, and had people put, coats and towels on the server. And you know what that does? That keeps the air out of the server, makes the server overheat. That's the end of your keys. So you got to have the backups. Let's see, the council should fine him for improperly disposing e-waste, which should have been recycled. Well, they could, but I still feel like he could have, kind of, I hate to say this in a political way, but bribed his way onto the council, right? If he ran commercials for this little area in England and said, I'm going to rebuild the libraries, I'm going to rebuild the roads, I'm going to build a civic center, I'm going to build all these things because if you help me get 8,000 Bitcoins out of our garbage dump, I'm going to make our town the greatest town in the world, and I'm running for town council, and here's my 2 buddies, and if we take over the council, all these other things we don't care about, we're just going to authorize the ability to dig through this dump, and we're going to do it. Oh, it's in Wales. It's not in England. My apologies. But still, to the Welsh people, can't you let us dig in the dump? We've just got to get to the dump. It's still kind of Scottish. Let's see. Baxter says, have you ever seen a garbage dump before? Giant heaving machines driving over everything, mixing it up. He says the hard drive is in molten pieces or molten metal or a million pieces. Gerbot wonders if it's an SSD. I think we're talking platters here. I think this is an old enough hard drive that we're talking platters, but it's possible the guy could have had big money. But still, why would you throw out an SSD? That's so fast. Such a cool hard drive. I guess I'm old, but let's see. Newport, he'll want the Bitcoin to move out. So they're even going to not want to fix up the town. And even for the council, I think that the council, even if you he doesn't run for it and take it over with advertising and money and promises and whatever. It seems like the town council would say, well, let's dig for this guy's goofy Bitcoins. Let's make a deal. Let's get 10% of them or something like that, and let's dig them up. But we're just going to keep talking about this because this is our classic story. We do want to do an exit question kind of from before, but from now. But think about the 8,000 Bitcoins and think about the Bitcoin predictor ball, the source of all truth in this or any known universe. And now, will the price of Bitcoin be higher this time next week? We talked about it on the beginning of the show. Let's go back to the chart from our friends at bitcoinal.com, created by DJ Booth. The price is 97,377. That's a lot of sevens. That's 3 sevens. The price is up since we started the show. Naturally, the price has always been up. Historically, if you look at it, since the creation of Mad Bitcoins and the World Crypto Network, the price of Bitcoin has historically always been up since then. But do I think it'll be going up next week? Yeah, I think so. I don't know. I mean, we've had some pretty hot stories in the US with a 25% tariff on aluminum and steel announced. Perhaps you can't tell anymore if these things are going to happen. Obviously, large market forces like tariffs and the stock market crashing, things like this affect Bitcoin, even if we think Bitcoin's a separate asset, all those things. So I'm going to stick with up, but let's see what the ball says. Again, don't trust my word, trust the ball. Let us know in the chat if you think it's going to be higher or lower. Just say the word higher or lower. Here we are. Will the price be higher this time next week? Don't count on it. Don't count on it. The ball is pessimistic. So keep an eye on that. And let's move on to issue 4. We're quickly running out of issues, so give us a thumbs up down below. They're saying in the chat lower. They're agreeing with the ball. And Baxter says he never tosses hard drives. I agree with that. You got to stack those up. You never know. Need that data. Moving on to issue 4. Who is Alexander Vinnik, the Bitcoin criminal Trump freed in a prisoner exchange with Russia? Well, first of all, who did we get in exchange for Vinnik? The United States had captured Vinnik, and they traded him for a teacher who smoked weed in Russia, who should have been included in a previous prisoner transfer but wasn't. They got the teacher back. Russia, meanwhile, got the criminal mastermind behind the website BTC-E. If there's any old Bitcoiners in the chat, they all remember BTC-E, a very strange website. Many thought to be kind of mob related, didn't really have any information on it or about it, but you could go there and trade your Bitcoin for Litecoin or a handful of other altcoins, which was novel at the time, things you couldn't do on Coinbase. And according to this website, etc., millions and millions of dollars were laundered through BTC-E, perhaps by terrorists or even the Russian government. So quite a sweet deal for Russia, not a great deal for the United States getting back the teacher. So mainly I put this story in because it's about BTC-E. It was a big deal back in the day. There weren't that many Bitcoin exchanges. There weren't that many altcoin exchanges. As I said, it was a big deal. They had, I want to say, Litecoin, something like maybe Megacoin, Terracoin, WorldCoin, that kind of thing back in the day. I don't think it was a Ripple era or those kind of things, obviously years out from Solana, but it was a big deal, and it was, at least while it ran, allegedly an honest exchange. Like I said, you could put your money in and you could take it out, use it as an exchange. Don't use it as a store or like a bank, a place to store your value. It wasn't that. But yeah, a pretty good exchange for the time, I guess. It's hard to say. Obviously, I don't know anything about this money laundering or other things like that. Certainly don't have any access to the exchange. But it is a fascinating prisoner exchange. And the second in a series now for Trump, where he has pardoned Ross Ulbricht. Of course, we all generally agree with that pardon here, though we thought it would have happened after the drug war ended. It's very strange to have it happen because he was kind of bribed. And you wonder with this one, who paid to have this guy freed? Obviously, I think it's a much better deal for Russia than for the US, trading a teacher for a cryptocurrency kingpin. But still, I guess congratulations to Vinnik and BTC-E. They are free now. I don't know. And we've got breaking news from Bitcoin Magazine. It says that State Street and Citibank are going to launch Bitcoin and crypto custody. So according to rules that were changed by executive order by the Trump administration last week, banks can now custody crypto, so they can now hold Bitcoin. I assume this means they can buy and sell Bitcoin. I'm not sure if this means they can do loans or have you do a loan instrument with them where perhaps you could hold Bitcoin and they could give you money and that whole thing. But this is, again, as horrifying as this is, as much as this is, bringing in the monsters, bringing the cat in and all that kind of thing. We are making friends with the banks. Bitcoin is the coolest thing ever for the banks. I always thought it would be. I remember talking about this in 2013, being like, why don't the banks love this? Why don't they see what I see? Why aren't they using it to send money around in the evenings as well, not having to use the Federal Reserve? They could borrow money from other banks, just have it sent in Bitcoin, send it back. They could even do smart contracts. There's so much they could do with Bitcoin. But now they're going to offer it as a product, at least. State Street and Citibank, two of the largest banks in the world. And let's check back with the chat. What is a Bitcoin criminal? Is it like a dollar criminal or a yen criminal? It seems like these criminals do seem to just want money. As Danny DeVito said in the movie Heist, money, it's what everyone wants. That's why they call it money. More David Mamet. He likes defining things by defining things. They think he's a ruble criminal. I don't know what BTC-E cast his money out into. But it does seem like he was picked up in the European zone and then now traded back to Russia. Don't leave your prisoners on the exchange. Take them into your own wallet. That's the way you got to do it. And they say it's bullish news that the banks want to play with Bitcoin, but not that great for decentralization. We're going to find out next what's going on. Dogs are making noise. But we're pretty much running out of time. Thanks to everybody giving us thumbs up and letting us know in the chat. Say one more thing in the chat, and we'll read it towards the end. We just want to say a sad farewell this week to Tom Robbins, who passed away at 92. As it says here, how the rock icons The Doors inspired his books. It says the author was author of some of the weirdest books ever, was pure rock and roll. And it's sad there's not as much of a general outpour as there was with David Lynch for Tom Robbins. I think it's because not many of his books have been made into the movies. Only Even Cowgirls Get the Blues, and it's a better book than it is a movie. It's really something to read a Tom Robbins novel. And if you haven't, I definitely suggest picking one up. There's so much going on, so many different layers to the characters, and the characters themselves are such unique and bizarre people unlike you've ever met. In Fierce Invalids Home from Hot Climates, he talks about Switter's a man who's been cursed and cannot touch the ground. And if he touches the ground, he'll die instantly from the curse. So he goes around in a wheelchair, he jumps on top of things. It's just a fascinating, fun story. The first one I ever read was Still Life with Woodpecker. It was given to me when we were going on a road trip together, and I read the book. Let's see. I read the whole book on the road trip. I finished it and was able to give it back to my friend. Still Life with Woodpecker. Everything takes place inside of a camel pack. It's all about redheads and terrorists and princesses and typewriters. There's a great line going through the book about, I won't spoil it, but just from the very beginning, he talks about how he's just gotten a brand new electric typewriter and how it just, it's just this machine that just goes fast. And he wonders if this electric typewriter is capable of expressing a love story, of telling a love story. So I would try Still Life. I also like Jitterbug Perfume, which is about beets, eating beets and sex. Another roadside attraction is about what if you had the body of Jesus on the side of the road as a roadside attraction. Come see the body, that kind of thing. Skinny Legs and All is about a waitress and things like, I think that's the one where things are alive. There's like a sock and a sock and a salt shaker and something like that. I think so. That's the one with those characters, or maybe the frog legs or something. But still, I love Tom Robbins. I love Tom Robbins' books. I'm sad he passed away, but 92 is a heck of an accomplishment, especially for someone who, if you could tell from these books, probably spent a lot of time on the psychedelics and what have you in the 60s and 70s. His famous one, Even Cowgirls Get the Blues, made into a movie with Uma Thurman, great actress, fantastic. And Via Incognito, kind of a sequel to Fierce Invalids. Just a great author, totally fun to dive into. If you like it, you like it. If you don't like it, that's fine too. You probably won't like it. But to Tom Robbins, we say goodbye, 92. Thanks to everybody for joining us into the chat. Shout out to Terror Bear. He's been with WCN since June 2017. That we orange pilled him. He's still here. Thanks us for our service. And yes, thanks to everybody all along the way who's helped out with this network, that's given us the thumbs up, put the share or the comment, put us on Twitter, all those kind of things. It really helps out. And, we're just on the same journey you guys are. I think Bitcoin is awesome. I have for a long time. I've been doing these shows, and we'll see what happens in the future with Bitcoin. But thanks so much for joining us. Until next time,